Hi, friends. This is your pal, Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo and a phenomenal panel that was put on there specifically by Justin Alexander. He was actually Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo 2 in 2025, January 2025, put this on, but the host was Justin Alexander. He is the author of So You Want to Be a Game Master. He was a shocking surprise at the con. I love panels. That's my main thing when I go to conventions. I take a lot away. They really kick my brain into like second gear, into another gear, and into the next gear. And it really gets me thinking. And this panel, I think this is like my the fifth video I've done, discussing topics that, were discussed within this panel. So everything I'm talking about here was prompted by my thoughts based on, the material presented by Justin Alexander. So he talked about dedicated tables and open tables. The dedicated tables, them, right? Like everybody went to a session 0 and, and they're going to be there for 2 years until the campaign's done. Every person sits at the same table, sits at the same, seat at the table. Everybody shows up on time and leaves, and stays for the whole game. Every single player's got their own dice and their own book, and they've read the book, right? And open tables are completely different. It's like, I'm running Dungeons & Dragons this Friday, every Friday. I'm running Dungeons & Dragons every Friday. Come if you want, don't come. The game's going to still happen, right? That is a completely different approach, and it produces different results, right? So this is what Justin Alexander was talking about when he was talking about an open table. And he did say, like everyone, right? And so that includes a lot of groups that we've talked about. But the group I want to talk today about is Muggles, right? So first of all, that is a Harry Potter term, but actually it was added to the dictionary, right? Like, you and I are wizards, right? We are doing Dungeons and Dragons, right? We're wizards. And what do you mean, Scott? Right? Well, we don't function like any other human being on the earth, right? I truly believe on February 7th, 1974, Gary Gygax created Dungeons and Dragons and introduced it to the world and fundamentally changed and fundamentally created a new form of human being. It didn't happen on February 7th, 1974. The momentum started then, right? But right now, today, okay, we have people who are doing things that aren't even understood, right? We have human beings today that have watched the sunset on 30 worlds, 30 different worlds, right? In 30 different identities, right? And this is like, and if you don't, I'm trying to help you understand how massively different this is, right? So how is that different? Well, can you imagine, when stories were invented? Right? People are like, wait, you're lying. And he's like, no, or she, let's say she's not, I'm not lying. I'm presenting a vision to you. Wait, of what's going to happen? No. This is a narrative. This is something where I'm telling you a tale, right? This has never happened. This may never happen, but it still matters, right? And wait, so you're making up people and you're making up locations and you're making up objects? Yes. Right? And the profundity of that was incredible, right? It was just, but now what Gary put into motion is shocking. It is shocking, right? There are people walking this earth who have seen the sunset on 30 worlds, right? They have 30 sets, 300. They have seen, it's really profound. They have seen, they have 30 different sets of emotions, sensation, thoughts, memories, right? Okay, let's put that on a shelf. But now, when they go out into the real world, when they go out into the world, I don't even differentiate anymore. Like, some days this world is less real to me than Faerun. I can tell you that right now. There's a lot of things about this world that I understand a lot less than I understand about Faerun. I would even argue that I'm more of an expert on Faerun than I am on Earth. Right? I know I could, there's no question. I know the geography of Faerun, where things are. I could tell you the capitals of every area of Faerun. I couldn't tell you the capitals of every state in the United States of America. Right? I could tell you the leaders of every area of Faerun. I couldn't tell you the leaders of half the countries in the world. Right? I know Faerun better than I know Earth. Okay? And there are people who are, and so where we are approaching now is, right, like you go to work, right, and you talk to somebody, right, or let's say, and if they're a Dungeons and Dragons person, right, they may speak to you with their own voice, or they may shift into a different character that you don't know, right, and maybe they feel daunted when they talk to you, so they're using their paladin, right. They're shifting into a different identity to communicate, to do, to be, to feel, to remember. This is a different type of human being, a human being whose identity stacked and reached manifold sentience. Do you understand that? Like a katana. Memories folded on memories, folded on memories, interlinked. Do you understand where we're going? Right? We are wizards. We are not like normal human beings now, right? But there are muggles. Man, are there muggles, right? So this year, the Eagles were hot, and I got invited, and I watched Eagles with people who they don't. I cannot mention identity stacking to them. I can't have a conversation about manifold sentience with them. They don't have a box in their brain. They don't have a box in their heart. They don't have a box in their spirit for these conversations. Muggles, right? Like, just people who are not where we are. They would be like, wait a second, you pretend to be an elf? And like Christian Bale, Christian Bale, you pretend to be Batman? He'd be like, step back, fool. I don't pretend to be anything. I spent 100 hours studying the psychosis of Bruce Wayne, right? And then I did a narrative breakdown of the constructions that create the intellect, the emotions, and the spirit of Batman himself, right? I don't pretend to be anyone. This is my labor, right? And I have an Oscar for it. Step back, fool, right? And this is the point. Like, the Muggles don't get what we're doing, right? But when we talk about an open table, does it include Muggles? What will it take to allow somebody who's like a true NFL fan to play Dungeons and Dragons? To begin to create that box in their mind, that box in their heart, that box in their soul, to understand identity stacking, to have a discussion about manifold sentience, right? Well, first of all, this is what Justin Alexander's open panel, made me think about. And the reason why was he was using the term open table. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And I did ask him, I'm like, what do you mean by open? How open are we talking, right? Who gets to sit down, right? And here's where we land. If we're really going to bring Muggles in, we have to change everything. We really have to change everything. We need to build games. We need to build tabletop role-playing experiences from the ground up that will allow pure Muggles to actually sit at the table. That means throwing away everything, right? And building much, much simpler mechanics, and building settings that are more accessible. Maybe like, hey, we're going to play a role-playing game about welding. There's nothing else in this, just welding, right? Like, or, long-haul truckers, right? Like, and we can't put in all the complexity and all the, frou-frou-fra that we love. We've got to, not only do we need to change how we're building these structures, in addition, how we're building these tabletop role-playing experiences and these tabletop role-playing games, we would also need to sacrifice, right? So we would need to bring in like regular tabletop role players who are going to fill half the table, and they need to like lower their acting skills, and they need to forget their tolerance for complexity and just approach this at a much, much simpler level. This will require a complete teardown of TTRPG mechanics and a complete sacrifice up. I'm talking Isaac on the altar, like virtually. The level of sacrifice that would be required is incredible. And right now, this is my entire point. We talk about open tables, but we can't spell it. This is Shadowrun saying, this is a rules-light game. Now here's our 250-page book, right? So many things we talk about, we're not actually approaching. We're not doing the things that are actually necessary to arrive where we're pretending to be going, right? And so if we're going to get Muggles at the table, it's going to require a complete TTRPG mechanics teardown. It's going to require sacrifice beyond what a lot of people are ready for. But let's do it. Let's create open tables. Let's bring Muggles to the table. Let's bring true NFL fans to the table of D&D, right? And that means a complete change of everything, in my humble opinion. Every single word you heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.